It's November 2006. J.K. Rowling is working in secret on the final chapters of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows in a hotel room in Edinburgh.
Yeah, I've helpfully made the note for myself. This will need very serious planning. I don't know when I wrote that. And I was quite right in that.
The Harry Potter series has taken 17 years to write. It's an epic saga of childhood confusion, danger, and adventure. But it's more than just a children's story. Behind the witchcraft and the wizardry lies an intensely moral fable about good and evil, love and hatred, life and death. My name is James Runcie. I'm a writer and a filmmaker, and I want to find out the secret of J.K. Rowling's success. How has she done it? And where has it all come from?
You look really nice, Jem. Oh, thank you.
This is J.K. Rowling's country house in Perthshire. Once inside, I decided to start the film by asking a few direct questions. What's your favourite virtue?
Courage.
What vice do you most despise?
Bigotry.
What are you most willing to forgive?
Gluttony.
What's your most marked characteristic?
I'm a trier.
What are you most afraid of?
Losing someone I love.
What's the quality you most like in a man?
Morals.
What's the quality you most like in a woman?
Generosity.
What do you most value about your friends?
Tolerance.
What's your principal defect?
Short fuse.
What's your favourite occupation?
Writing.
What's your dream of happiness?
Happy family.
The desire for a happy family comes, in part, from a difficult childhood. Like her orphaned hero Harry Potter, Joanne Rowling was brought up on a suburban British street, first in Yates, just outside Bristol, and then a few miles down the road in Winterbourne. The house even had a cupboard under the stairs. But unlike Harry Potter, Jo wasn't made to sleep there. She shares the same birthday as Harry Potter, the 31st of July. And together with her sister Di, endured similar childhood economies. What were your haircuts like?
Oh, that's just wrong.
They were terrible.
That honestly, this is child abuse.
They were terrible.
I don't want to show it though.
I've got it here.
But I was
That's not right. That. Look at my fringe. I don't think anyone can stomach that for long.
If you're wondering, Jo is the one on the right.
If you weren't used to cutting hair, wouldn't you approach it in a gentle, slow manner?
Wouldn't you go to a hairdresser?
Well, maybe they could, but wouldn't you just cut it slowly and not attack it like a hatchet?
I do think you've come. Mine was always crooked, always.
Did you wear similar clothes?
Oh my God, yes.
Different colours.
Yeah,
but
you always had pink, and I always had blue.
Because you were the boy, Jo?
Yeah.
Because you were the eldest?
Yeah, and I was supposed to be a boy, so...
Simon John.
I was supposed to be Simon John. I even know who I was supposed to be.
Oh, they told you?
Oh, yeah.
She was a massive disappointment.
Yeah. And so then I said quite hopefully, and when Di came along, were you disappointed too? No. I said, was that because you found out it was quite nice to have a girl? No. So then I just went upstairs and wept.
When Jo was 9 years old, the family moved to a village outside Chepstow on the edge of the Forest of Dean. Here was a location that offered a whole range of imaginative possibilities: magical creatures, mystery, and intrigue.
I'm very drawn to the forest, and it's my favourite part of the Hogwarts grounds. The advantage of a forest is it can be so many things. It can be a place of enchantment. You never imagine a crowd in a forest, it's a solitary place. Is it because it used to be a place of shelter and safety to us, I suppose? So I think I'm very drawn to them, even though they can be spooky.
Jo wrote stories from an early age. There was resonant material all around her. She even lived next door to a graveyard. The family lived in this house. Jo and her sister Di earned extra pocket money as part-time cleaners of St. Luke's Church.
I cannot overstate how cold it got in this church in winter when we were cleaning it. It was freezing for £1 each. It's tragic, really. We must be in here loads, because we used to sign this book all the time. Oh, God, I know. Oh, look, it's me. There I am. Me and Di together. Joanne Rowling, age 12, Diane Rowling, age 10. It's a name I stole for Harry Potter. For an unpleasant character as well. Hide the book, lock it away. Forgotten about that. Yes.
Jo was the only member of the family to attend church services regularly and was baptized here at the age of 11. Do you believe in God?
Yes. I do struggle with it. I couldn't pretend that I'm not doubt-ridden about a lot of things, and that would be one of them, but I would say yes.
Do you think there's a life beyond this of some kind?
Yes, I think I do.
Jo's religious belief and her thoughts about love, death, and the afterlife were severely tested when her mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 1980.
I was 15 when she was diagnosed, but we now know that she was showing signs probably from when I was about 10 or 11. She would have odd losses of feeling in limbs, her balance actually was poor for a long time. And then it just got worse and worse, and she decided it was time to visit the doctor, but she wasn't expecting to hear anything. And then, you know, a year of tests, and there we were. She had a very virulent form of the illness, and at that time there were no drug treatments at all. They said, well, you've got multiple sclerosis. See you.
The illness was to have a devastating impact on the two girls, particularly as they found their father difficult. One of the reasons Harry Potter is so full of idealised father figures, Hagrid, Dumbledore, and Sirius Black, is that Jo's relationship with her own father was far from ideal.
I was very frightened of my father for a very long time, but also tried, well, it's a common combination, isn't it? I also tried desperately to get his approval and make him happy, I suppose. And then there came a point, quite shamingly late in life, where I couldn't do that anymore. And so I haven't had any contact with my father now for a few years.
The absence of any meaningful relationship with her father and the long, slow loss of her mother are two of the most important influences on Jo's writing. Anne Rowling died in 1990. She never knew about Harry Potter or the phenomenal success her daughter was about to enjoy. The death of Joanne Rowling's mother was to have a profound effect on her writing. In many ways, the whole of Harry Potter is one giant attempt to reclaim a childhood.
You think the dead we have loved ever truly leave us? You think that we don't recall them more clearly than ever in times of great trouble?
I'd been writing for 6 months before she died. The weird thing is, the essential plot didn't change after my mother died, but everything deepened and darkened. Harry was always going to lose his parents, and it was always going to be a quest, really, to avenge them, but to avenge everyone against this creature, this being who believes that he can make himself immortal by killing other people. So that's something I'd created before she died, but yes, it seeped into every part of the books. I think, in retrospect, now I've finished, I see just how much it informed everything.
Was she the first person you saw dead?
No, because I didn't see her dead, which was in deference to my father's wishes. I wanted to see her, and he didn't want me to see her, and I mistakenly, as I look back, I agreed not to, and I really deeply regret that. I really, really, really wish I'd seen her. It didn't matter what she looked like, it would have made it easier. Because I do believe that the truth, which is another theme in the books, and certainly stems from my own past, I think that the truth is always easier than a lie or an evasion. Easier to deal with, and easier to live with.
After her mother's death, Jo moved to Portugal to teach English as a foreign language. She married Georges Orantush, a television journalist. Together they had a daughter, Jessica, but the marriage failed after 2 years. Jo succumbed to depression.
I'd had a short and really quite catastrophic marriage, and I'm left with this baby, and I've got to get this baby back to Britain, and I've got to rebuild us a life. And adrenaline kept me going through that, and it was only when I came to rest that it hit me what a complete mess I had made of my life. And that hit me quite hard. We were as skint as you can be without being homeless. In other words, we were existing entirely on benefits. And at that point, I was definitely clinically depressed. And that's just characterised for me by a numbness, a coldness, and an inability to believe that you will feel happy again or that you could feel light-hearted again. It's just all the colour drained out of life, really. And I loved Jessica very, very much, and was terrified something was going to happen to her, because I think I'd gone into that very depressive mindset where everything's gone wrong, so this one good thing in my life will now go wrong as well. So it was almost a surprise to me every morning that she was still alive. I kept expecting her to die, or it was a bad, bad time.
Jo's depression inspired her creation of the Dementors in the Harry Potter series.
Dementors are among the foulest creatures that walk this earth. They infest the darkest, filthiest places. They glory in decay and despair. They drain peace, hope, and happiness out of the air around them. Get too near a Dementor, and every good feeling, every happy memory will be sucked out of you.
The Harry Potter books may be located in an alternative fantasy world, but they're filled with the pain and dilemmas of real life. They address serious moral questions about the nature of trust, loyalty, integrity, and the need to make a stand against evil. Through the series, Harry Potter has to learn what it means to be a force for good against the dark arts of Lord Voldemort.
I think we all understand what an act of evil is, and Voldemort qualifies extravagantly for acts of evil. He's killed not out of self-defense, not to protect, not for any of the reasons that we might all be able to envisage, or most of us could envisage ourselves killing in certain extreme situations if people we loved were threatened or in war. He's killed cold-bloodedly, sometimes for enjoyment, and for his own personal gain. I call that evil. And yes, at the end of the book, you have a clash of two utterly, utterly different, again, for want of a better word, souls. One that has been maimed and has become less than human, because to me, human includes the capacity to love, and Voldemort has deliberately dehumanized himself. And this flawed, vulnerable, damaged, and yet still fighting, still loving, still daring to love and daring to hope soul, which is Harry. And they meet and they clash, and it's what happens when they clash that gives us our denouement.
Jo locks herself in the Balmoral Hotel, Edinburgh, to work on the crucial final chapters of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It's January the 11th, 2007, and the end of 17 years of writing.
Yeah, I think I've finished.
Hey, Jo, well done.
Thank you. Well, you don't know, it might be rubbish. Some people will loathe it. They'll absolutely loathe it. But the thing is, that's as it should be, because for some people to love it, others must loathe it. That's just in the nature of the plot. Some people won't be happy because of what they wanted to happen hasn't happened. And to an extent, there's so much expectation from the hardcore fans that I'm not sure I could ever match up to it. But I'm actually really, really happy with it. So it's very odd to think that this will be broadcast after loads of people have read it. And people may right now be throwing things at the screen, but I'm really happy with it. I like it. And I don't always feel like that.
Jo puts on the page numbers and saves the document. It's almost impossible to describe the level of expectation surrounding this one woman as she goes through the final stages towards publication. The process all seems so normal, almost boring. But this is now the most valuable manuscript in publishing history. She takes it in person to her agent, Christopher Little, in London. The handover is at Heathrow Airport at 10:43 on Friday the 12th of January 2007. The manuscript is taken to Jo's editor. After she's read it, she goes through it page by page, checking that every loose end is tied up. The publishers plan the book launch, and discussions concern how many copies J.K. Rowling will be able to sign.
A signing that will happen at midnight on publication day, but this will be about somewhere between, well, about 2,000 children for argument's sake.
Jo's agreed to sign for 8 hours.
Yes,
and
she
from
has.
midnight to...
You can't get that many people in anywhere.
Everyone here is forbidden to reveal anything about the plot to anyone.
We want everybody to get the book at the same time, and then everybody will know what happens at the same time, depending on how fast they read, of course.
So you're not going to tell me what happens?
I'm not going to tell you what happens. Can't tell you what happens. Be shot.
Would you lose your job if you told me what
I
happened?
can't tell you that, James.
Well, well, Mr. Potter, the whole thing starts with the tale of the three brothers.
On April the 23rd, Stephen Fry records the audiobook.
The stuff was quite disgusting, as though someone had liquidized bogey-flavoured every flavour beans.
He poses with Joe for photographs.
The big eyes are great, Stephen. Joe, keep engaged. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The Chinese have a saying, be careful what you wish for. I wondered how much J.K. Rowling wanted all this fame.
I wished to be published, and I wished more than anything in the world to be a writer. Did I wish there was, but that it never occurred to me in a million years, James, that people would search my dustbins, put a long lens camera on me on the beach, you know. Never occurred to me that a journalist would bang on the door of one of my oldest friends and offer her money to talk about me. Never occurred to me that my children would be scrutinised to see how spoilt they were because their parent was famous.
3 weeks before the launch of the final book, Joe attends the film premiere of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, the 5th book in the series. It's a starry, glamorous occasion, and Joe is expected to behave like a film star. But she is a writer, and when she started, she could hardly have expected all this attention.
What about the razzmatazz and all that stuff?
Well, some of it's fun, and some of it's frankly horrible. The fun bits are when you get to talk to people who have read your books. That's always great. What I find difficult is the kind of stagey midnight moment business. Because I'm not very good at it. I don't think that makes me a better person because I'm not good at it, I hasten to add, but I'm not good at it. I'm not a natural ta-da kind of person. I get all uptight about having to do that sort of stuff, and I feel like a prat. People definitely expect you to be visibly enjoying yourself. And I think Quentin Crisp said that was the secret to being good on television. Just look happy to be there. And I haven't always looked happy to be there. In fact, sometimes I've looked bloody miserable to be there. And I know that that's not televisually good, but you know, I've got better. I'm having quite a good time here.
In a factory in Suffolk, under conditions of extreme secrecy, the book is being printed. So far, the Harry Potter series has sold 350 million copies in 65 different languages. The conclusion to the series is about to become the fastest-selling book in history. Harry Potter is a global phenomenon, and J.K. Rowling is now in demand all over the world. It's clearly a story with a happy ending. Here she is with her husband Neil on a private jet her publisher has hired for them. He's a doctor. They married in 2001 and have 2 children, David and Mackenzie. I wondered what their marriage was like and if there were tensions.
What is J.K. Rowling like to live with?
Joe.
Tell the truth.
Yeah, I'm going to tell the truth.
Excellent.
You, Joe detaches us. When she becomes very stressed, she'll detach herself and only trust one person, and that's herself. So everyone else gets blocked out, and she becomes more and more stressed, and less able to accept any help.
So that's presumably quite stressful for you.
Well, it is stressful. Basically, the barriers go up, and it's not just me, but it's everyone else around her. Only one person is trusted, and she's got to do everything herself, despite the fact that, you know, it's not possible to do everything herself.
But Jo's single-mindedness has led to the most anticipated book launch in history. On July the 20th, 2007, at the Natural History Museum in London, 1,700 people, picked out of a lottery of 90,000 applicants, await J.K. Rowling's arrival.
Jo, millions of fans are waiting for this book all over the world. How do you deal with that level of expectation?
It swings between, on this book, thinking it's the best I can do, it's how I always planned it to end, so that's going to have to be good enough. And occasionally you think, how can I ever live up to this?
2 hours to go. Jo's in her car on the way to the launch.
I can't believe I'm here. I'm even more excited than I thought I would be. Do you know, people queuing in Piccadilly 2 days ago from Belgium. I also really, really want a cigarette right now. And when I said that to Neil, he said, have you got one? I should have done, but then I would have been hooked. Tomorrow I'd have gone out and bought 20. I can't smoke. With me, it's 40 a day or it's nothing.
The book is embargoed until 1 second past midnight. At that point, J.K. Rowling will open Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows and begin to read. The countdown takes place worldwide.
6!
Chapter 1. The Dark Lord Ascending. The two men appeared out of nowhere, a few yards apart in the narrow, moonlit lane. For a second they stood quite still, wands directed at each other's chests. Then, recognizing each other, they stowed their wands beneath their cloaks and started walking briskly in the same direction.
As Jo reads, fans all over the world collect their copies at last.
Best day of our lives. It feels amazing having this in our hands finally after waiting for 10 years and 16 hours today. Oh my God, I can't even believe that I can go back to the hotel room and read this. Like, I can read this. I can read Harry Potter.
Does it really matter now if I get a bit drunk and disorderly? I'll finish the book.
In London, from 20 past midnight until 7 in the morning, J.K. Rowling signed 1,700 copies of her book.
Here we are.
We're off!
First signing of the book.
Do you know what, Hugo? You will find someone who is called Hugo in this book.
Thank you very much.
In the first 24 hours, 2.65 million books are bought in the United Kingdom and 8.3 million books are sold in the United States. That's over 7,000 copies a minute. What readers find at the end of the last book is that this has been a story about the redemptive power of love. But if you don't want to know the ending, this is the time to look away for a couple of minutes.
I felt it would be a betrayal of the character if I showed Harry doing anything other than living what all along he has discovered to be true, which is that love is the strongest power there is. And I thought a lot about people who had been through terrible things like wars, and having to come home and rebuild and espouse normality after seeing horrors has always seemed to me to be such a courageous thing to do. And climbing back to normality after trauma is much, much harder. It's much harder to rebuild than to destroy. In some ways, it would have been a neat ending to kill him, a neater ending to kill him, but I felt it would have been a betrayal because I wanted my hero, and he's my hero, to do what I think is the most noble thing. So he came back from war, and he tried to build a better world, I suppose, corny as that sounds, both on a small scale for a family and a larger scale.
Jo ends the series by giving Harry a family. She's worked out the future of all the surviving characters and draws out a family tree for the Potters and the Weasleys.
Victoire, who's in the epilogue, she is so named because she was born on the anniversary of the battle that finished it all, which is the 2nd of May, if anyone's been paying attention. And then Charlie had children or married.
Is he gay?
Dumbledore's gay. But I told a reader that once, and I thought she was going to slap me. But I always saw Dumbledore as gay. No, I don't think Charlie's gay. Just more interested in dragons than women. Percy married Audrey. Don't you think that's a very Percy-like wife's name? And they had Molly and Lucy. And then poor Fred died in 1997. And then George, a lot of readers asked me, was George all right? And of course he wouldn't be all right, would he? That's the reality. I can't. But I think that he married Angelina, who was actually Fred's ex, so you can, maybe it's a bit unhealthy, but I think that they would have been happy as he could be without Fred. I think he really would have felt like part of himself died.
And then there's Ginny, who marries Harry.
And Ginny marries Harry, and they have James, Sirius, godparents Ron and Hermione. They have Albus Severus, who's the one I'm most interested in. And then third, Lily Luna, for their dear friend.
And what happens to Luna?
Oh, Luna marries Rolf Scamander, who is the grandson of a great naturalist, so they'd have a very interesting life, globe-trotting and looking for weird animals. But I think she'd have twin boys. But later, that would be much later than this lot, who all settled down earlier.
And are they happy?
Yes, I think so. My lot are all happy.
The twin boys have got names too.
Lorcan and Lysander, if that's all right with you.
Very Shakespearean.
I can't help it. You know what it was like? It was like running a race and you get to the finishing line and you're running too fast to stop, so I do know what happened afterwards. So I couldn't stop my imagination doing that. So I know this sounds an awful lot of detail to go into for your own satisfaction and not because you're planning to write more books, but that's just how it was. I couldn't stop. I had to know what happened next.
Well, you always have to know more than you put in, don't you?
Yeah. And I carried that on into another generation, but yes,
So all of that could be another book?
Yeah. Don't. No, it can't be. No. I think it would, I think it's definitely time to stop now. It gives me a certain satisfaction to say what I thought happened and to tell other people that because I would like my version to be the official version still, even though I've not written it in a book, because it's my world. But no, I don't want to write any more Hogwarts books.
It's clear that Jo has come to the end of a massive piece of writing. she's found a kind of closure, both in her work and in her family life.
I'm making David's birthday cake because he's 4 tomorrow. But it's just a family tea birthday cake. Because the day after that we have the party for all his friends, and then he gets a shop-made Lightning McQueen from the Disney Pixar film with which he is obsessed. Baking really reminds me of my mother. She made fantastic cakes, so that really makes me feel like I'm doing the proper motherly thing when I'm making birthday cakes. And David really likes my cakes, particularly.
Did you grow up with the smell of baking?
Yeah, my mum was a good cook, but she didn't get to stretch her wings much because my father greatly mistrusted foreign food. But on cakes and buns and bread, she was fantastic, and that was permissible, so that's where she got to show her paces, as it were.
The memory of childhood is clearly one of Jo's main themes, but now that both she and Harry Potter have families, has she lost her principal inspiration?
I'm happier now than I've ever been in my life. I'm happier now than I was as a child, teenager, young adult. You know, I think middle age is probably going to be my time.
If her life and her writing have been some kind of struggle for completion, and she's now found it, what, if anything, is she going to do next? Has she written her last book? The Caledonian Hotel, Edinburgh. The top brass of both Warner Brothers and Universal Studios have flown over for a meeting with J.K. Rowling. Hollywood comes to her. She doesn't need to go to Hollywood. They're discussing the building of a massive 20-acre Harry Potter theme park in Florida and are seeking her approval.
You know what? Sitting in a room full of people who are trying to impress you, that's when I feel at my most fraudulent. Because I feel like I'm about 13 and they're all grown-ups. And I cover that up quite well, but I often think, why are you all looking at me for? Because for years I was the least important person in the room, and I was doodling on my notepad when I should have been taking minutes and actually writing Harry Potter stories.
The howler is floating in space, and its mouth is moving, but you can't hear what it's saying. But if you stand in the perfect spot right in front of this window, you have what's called hypersonic sound, and only that one person can hear what the howler is saying.
I think it must be quite odd to be J.K. Rowling. Half of her life seems almost normal, while the other half seems completely mad.
And the sensor will tell that there's somebody there. It will open its eyes, growl, and lunge at you.
There's also the question of money.
According to some press reports, you have £570 million.
Mm-hmm.
Is this true?
Those reports are bollocks.
How much do you have?
Loads, but I'm not telling you how much. But it's definitely not 570.
Why won't you tell me?
Because I think it's private.
But you have lots of millions of pounds.
Yeah, I do.
Money means that J.K. Rowling can afford to do her Christmas shopping in Tiffany.
Here's a new cup that we have. It's wonderful. I think it's great. Yeah.
She also allows herself one particular indulgence: shoes.
Why do girls love shoes so much? I want all of those.
You're really nice.
Do you worry about people asking you for money all the time?
No.
Do they?
Honestly. Well, strangers write to me and ask for money. A lot. And sometimes I've given it. But with people that I know, it does change your relationships. Anyone who says differently is a fool or a liar. It does add a dimension to your relationships when your status changes initially, I think. But now, as time's gone on, I think my friends have made an adjustment and I've made an adjustment. And my experience is that your best friends are happy to take in the spirit that it's given, and you know, we can all relate pretty much as we ever did.
Do you worry that people at some point are going to ask you, though? Is it like a sort of shadow in a conversation? You think, I bet they're going to ask me for money.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I don't walk around at all thinking that everyone wants to get a bit of money from me. Are you leading up to touching me? Do you want a loan?
Every week, Jo Rowling receives up to 1,500 letters, either from fans or from people asking for charitable donations. That's over 75,000 letters a year.
Initially, I was very disorganised with my giving. I didn't have a thought-through system. And again, that was becoming a bit overwhelming as well. So I have a charitable trust now. And we've refined the objectives of the trust, which was a very useful exercise. So the trust does multiple sclerosis research, and that's one side of what it does. And then it mainly targets projects, large or small scale, that are to do with the alleviation of social deprivation, with a particular emphasis on women's and children's charities. As we discussed. Yeah, so I'm saying OK to that point, not to the other point. OK. I become very angry when it comes to issues concerning social deprivation and social exclusion. And I become most irritated and angry by people who have really no idea how it feels to exist in poverty and how disadvantage casts an sometimes irreparable blight over people's lives. And I'm aggravated to real fury by the fact that there is a section of our society that can't join the dots and doesn't see how issues that affect even them, their safe lives, such as crime and drugs, things that touch the middle classes, have their roots often in terrible injustice. And it's amazing how people can't and don't care enough to try and redress some of those issues. Those things make me very angry.
Jo Rowling has given away millions of pounds. She's never forgotten what it was like to have very little money. Amidst all the fame and the trappings of success, it's probably quite easy to lose sight of who she was when she started out. So I wanted to take her back to her old flat in Leith, where she finished the very first Harry Potter book, and find out what her life had been like then. It's only a few miles from her main house in Edinburgh, but this is the first time she's been back.
Did you write in here?
Mm-hmm. This is really the room. Well, I finished Philosopher's Stone in here. This is really where I turned my life around. Completely. I mean, my life changed so much in this flat. I feel I really became myself here, in that everything was stripped away. I've made such a mess of things, but that was freeing. So I just thought, well, I want to write. So I wrote the book, and what is the worst that can happen? It gets turned down by every publisher in Britain, big deal. So, you know, it's really back to the old time here. My bedroom's a lot, well, my bedroom, the bedroom is a lot tidier now, God. God, that's much. This was a tip when I lived here. Oh, look, Harry Potter books. Now that's really freaky. And for years now, I felt like if it all disappeared, and some days I do feel like, is it real? Then this is where I would come back to, you know, this would be my baseline, I'd be back in Leith. And obviously if I'd known that 10 years, well, what was it, yeah, 10 years on, I'd come back here with a film crew and there would be my published books in someone else's bookcase in this room. I mean, it's really incredible to me. It really, I mean, yes. Because it's such a well-worn part of my story now, it's a big yawn to hear how I wrote it, as though it was all some sort of publicity stunt I did for a year. But it was my life, and it was very hard. And I didn't know there was going to be this fairy tale resolution. And coming back here is just full of ghosts.
For most writers, the act of writing is a form of therapy, a way of making sense of the world and their place within it. Now, Jo Rowling is writing again.
So, Jo, what are you writing now?
A story that I describe as a political fairy tale. And it's for, I think, slightly younger children, so that will probably be the next thing that I finish. I'm not in a mad hurry to publish. I would like to take my time.
Why?
Because I've lived with deadlines for 10 years, and I am currently able to luxuriate in the fact that no one's really expecting it, no one knows anything about it, so I feel as though I've gone right back to the beginning where I was on Philosopher's Stone when it was my private world, and I'd really like to enjoy that sole possession for a while.
Political fairy tale, that's all you're prepared to say?
I think that's quite a lot, James.
It's the end of a year of filming. There are just a few more questions I want to ask.
When were you happiest?
Hospital for the birth of each of my children, and Venice last year with Newell.
What's your biggest regret?
That I didn't keep my mother on the telephone longer the last time I spoke to her.
What do you still want to achieve?
I want to get better.
Do you ever feel you just got lucky?
Having the idea was lucky.
Do you ever feel a fraud?
Less as I get older, but I have done.
What keeps you going?
I'm a born trier.
Why do you still write?
Because I love it and I need it.
How would you like to be remembered?
As someone who did the best she could with the talent she had.